Good evening and welcome to the Grand Oshkosh. Glad you could join me this evening. My name is Joe Ferlo. I am the director of the Grand. And today we have what has become my weekly episode of Ghost Light Gossip. Some updates from me on what's going on, and I'm going to answer some of your questions along the way. Certainly, I appreciate those of you who have already submitted questions. I have a little list here to work off of, but if you have any questions at all you want to ask along the way, feel free to just put them into the comments side of things. I will see them there, and I will do my very best to do that. So, in Grand news this week, we're closed still. We continue to do the work to prepare for a reopening. We are scheduled to reopen on September the 12th with B Twins, the group that just started our little show here for us. There's a lot of work going into what that might look like. Obviously, we are committed for that first show to social distanced seating, which means reduced capacity. And there are a lot of other procedures that we have to work out in terms of crowd and all of that said. But with all of that said, we are still focusing on September the 12th, and we hope that at that time we'll have a great show happening under the roof here. In the meantime, we have continued things going on with the Grand at Home, the online show that we've got going on, of which this is our Thursdays. Thursdays will be Ghost Light Gossip, which eventually I'll be able to say. And we will continue to work there to update you and keep you abreast of what's going on here at Grand. Friday nights are cocktail hour. We are where we sit down, me one-on-one or one-on whomever, with one of the artists either who have played the Grand in the past or are going to be playing in the future, or just some known artists in our world to talk to. This weekend, we're featuring a dear friend of mine, a longtime friend of mine, Mr. Mojo from Mojo and the Bayou Gypsies, will be joining me for cocktails tomorrow at 7:30. And Mojo, in addition to being a tremendous entertainer, is one of the most well-known and well-spoken advocates of what's going on at the artist side of the business. So I'm looking forward to sitting down with Mojo and having a conversation. We'll talk about how not only how the COVID-19 situation has affected us here at Grand, but the effect it's had on artists as well. We'll brainstorm a little bit about what's going on in the world and from each of our perspectives. And we'll have some snippets of work of Mojo and the Bayou Gypsies just to keep things moving along in the course of the day. On Saturday nights, we have a streaming show of sorts, and we've got artists lined up now well into the next month. We're still looking for more, but tomorrow night, on Saturday night, we're going to continue with Mojo, Louisiana Cajun flair. Mojo has made available to us an entire 2-hour concert of Mojo and the Bayou Gypsies. You may want to make room in your house to get up and dance, because that music will make you move. So that is Saturday night. So the Grand at Home is something that we're committed to continue straight through the summer, going up to that Labor Day and the eventual reopening on September the 12th. Beyond September the 12th, the schedule is still flux. A lot of it depends on how long we are going to commit, how long we feel we need to commit to social distance seating. And please understand that it's with the safety of everyone concerned that we're gonna make that decision, and but if we do make that decision through October or November and whatever, again, with lower seating capacities, people who are renting the Grand, the promoters and the arts partners who use the Grand, will have to make some decisions too, because obviously the math of ticket sales isn't as kind. And we're going to have to feel that out as we go along. Each subsequent week on this show will probably be just a little bit closer as we get ready to put tickets on sale for our events. So I would encourage you to, check back frequently and see what we're doing. Of course, you can also check on the website, thegrandoshkosh.org. When you go there, the first thing you see as it pops up on your screen is a way to subscribe to the Grand at Home, or a way to get updated information on show updates and other COVID-19 related information. And of course, there's also a place that'll lead you to a place where you can make a deductible donation to the Grand Oshkosh. This is the time of year when we're usually doing our fundraising as well. And believe me, everything that happens in the terms of fundraising in the next 6 to 8 weeks is going to have everything to do with how we move out going into the fall. We want to be here for you all fall, all winter, and beyond. And we want to be ready to go. So your help there is appreciated. With all that said, let's go back to some of your questions and comments. This is a great one. When will the tickets go on sale for the new season? I guess I should move this down maybe so you can see my chin as we do this. Right now, the plan is for the tickets for the Grand shows to go on sale sometime shortly after the 4th of July. So we've got to finish our work here and doing the math and setting things up here and looking at what that might look like. But at that point, we want to be ready to go out and get some of these great shows out in front of you. So because frankly, with reduced seating capacity, I do anticipate these tickets will go quickly. It's unusual for us not to sell 200 tickets to anything. So I hope that will be, that'll be the case. And remember that those of you who are donors to the Grand get to buy your tickets in advance of the general public. So that's just another reason to do that. What will the seating look like? Will there be social distance seating? Yes, certainly for that first show on September the 12th, and likely for some shows going throughout the fall. What that will look like, if you can picture the auditorium behind me, we'll be killing, not selling roughly 60% of the theater. 200 seats will be available. They'll be in groups of 2s and 4s, maybe, and singles for people, and that way people who are in the same family unit can still attend the show together. But they'll all be spaced out 6 feet apart, and distant from the stage. And so that the whole idea is that we want you to be able to enjoy the show without worrying about anything else. So we will certainly will work towards that. Let's see, we've got some other things here. Could there be more shows added? Yes. Right now, the season is announced, and if you go to the website, you'll see the new season announced. There are, I believe, 6, 7, 8 shows in that season. There will be shows added to that. Truly, I'm marketing. I've got to be really cautious and careful right now to make sure I've got shows that work in socially distanced seating for as long as I have to commit to socially distanced seating. But I'll tell you what, one of the neat things that's happened as a result of all of this is through the Grand at Home Saturday night shows. I'm getting to know those aren't all favors I'm calling in, friends and of the theater or people who've been here before. There are some artists I'm finding who have not played the Grand before, and as I'm getting to know them and finding out more about them, I think that we're discovering some acts. I think that last week's act, Sunday and Mr. Gessel, someday when they're traveling through from Seattle through Oshkosh, I wouldn't be surprised if we don't pick up a date for something like that along the way. The best way to stay abreast of what gets added to the schedule is either to put yourself on the Grand's mailing list, email list, or to check back frequently. Facebook is updated as quickly as possible, as is the website. But I feel safe in saying that, the first wave of Grand shows is up. We still have community players announcing what they're doing in the season. We still have the symphony announcing. There are promoters all out there who are waiting to see where we're going with things along the way, and then they're getting ready to announce as well. So it will be a full and rich schedule, especially in the second half of the year, especially from the holiday season on. I can tell you I didn't do a lot of early booking myself, and there are some artists who aren't going on the road right away. So the bottom line is what you see, you'll be able to purchase in July, and then you'll want to be on the lookout. And obviously, we'll do everything we can to make sure that as we add shows on, that you know about them just as soon as you can. Here's a great question. How can we stay open after the impact of COVID-19? I can alternate between terrified and optimistic. The fact of the matter is, our industry is going to change. And it could change forever. There's, a lot of people say it has changed forever. And I think that's possible. At the very least, it's going to change for the next 48 months. And what's that going to look like? We're going to struggle, I think. I think it's entirely possible because, we aren't going to sell food and beverage at the rate that we did prior. The numbers will be lower for as long as they need to be. We're trying to make up with that. Some of our artists have been great about saying, well, if you're only selling 200 seats, let's do 2 shows, and trying to make up things along the way there. But it's very different. How we get people in and out of the theater is something we're looking at right now. Well, what's that going to look like? In areas that are usually congested, what's it like for the restroom use? Where we may find yourselves with movie theater rules with no intermission, and if you need to get up in the middle of the show, you should feel free to do that. Meet and greets with the artists are certainly up in the air right now. We're going to probably replace those with a live question and answer session with the artists from the stage following their performance. As often as we can possibly do it. Corporate sponsorship is going to be critical. I can't sit here right now and promise you that ticket prices won't go up. I'm going to do everything I can to not have that happen. But you've seen it happen in in restaurants and grocery stores and gas stations now starting, but there are places where just you have to make up for the challenges that you're seeing. Right now, we've been very lucky to keep our core staff. They're working really hard and they're being incredibly creative. And I desperately want to make sure that happens as well. So there's a lot of challenges ahead of us through the summer until we get ourselves open again. And that's where the lining up of sponsors, you'll see. I'll do a little teaser of the Four Phantoms in a little bit, and you'll see the sponsors lined up there. That's absolutely critical. So that's a big part of where we're running with some things. And speaking of that, I'm going to take a little break, get a little drink of water. Feel free. You can see if you just put your comments into the. I'm sorry, I'm trying to do. Being my own engineer just doesn't always work for me. If you put the comments in, I will do my best to answer them for you. And I will be back with you in just another couple of minutes after this little preview of what's to come.
The Phantom of the Opera is here, inside your mind.
Hi, we're the Four Phantoms.
I'm Brent Barrett.
I'm John Cudia.
I'm Frank D'Ambrosio.
I'm Kieran Sheehan.
And I'm Kaylee Voorhees.
This December, we're returning to the Grand Oshkosh with a very special holiday show.
The show is sure to get you in the holiday spirit.
Yeah, but don't worry. You're also going to be hearing all of your Phantom favorites, too.
Speak softly, love, and hold me warm against your heart. I feel your words, the tender trembling moments are. Near and word, our very own, sharing a love that only few have ever known. My broken soul won't be alive or whole till I hear you sing once more. No, not me. All I care about is doing the guide who's picking on you, twisting the wrist that's turning the screw. Is I'll be here in sunshine or in shadow. Oh, Danny boy, I love you so. Sing, my angel of music.
He's there, the Phantom of the Opera.
Sing! Help me make the music of the
That, of course, is the Four Phantoms. We're really fortunate to have them coming back here to the Grand again, this time with a holiday show, a special Christmas show. And it's going to be, I'd like to think, a really great celebration. By December, I would hope that we're getting back out into the community and starting to find our way back to normal social life, including entertainment. And the Phantoms, I think, will be a terrific way for that to happen. Which leads to one of the questions that was submitted. Obviously, the Phantoms are coming back. They've played here to sell out crowds twice now, and the question that was submitted was, what's different about this performance this year? And it's an interesting kind of dilemma of sorts, because if you were the Four Phantoms and you are famous for singing that show, and you're out on the road with a show of that title, obviously you're going to sing the Phantom stuff. You have to do that. It's like rock star having to sing his or her favorites at the concerts. If they don't do it, you'd be pretty disappointed. And so there will be that the Phantom segment remains intact, but we've got a great holiday flair set up with a couple of ensemble numbers, holiday numbers, and some featured numbers for each of them in the holiday spirit to go into the show. I'm also pleased that to see Kaylee Voorhees back with us. Kaylee was the featured guest artist the first time the Phantoms were here. And the second time she was unable to make the gig because she was closing out her Broadway role, her Broadway run as Christine in the Phantom of the Opera on Broadway. Now that role that is done, we're going to be very happy to have Kaylee back with Frank D'Ambrosio and Brent Barrett and Karan Sheehan and John Cadilla. That's going to be a terrific show and a festive one. We're going to have a great time with that holiday show. The Phantoms, are a stretch for us. It's our Hamilton. It's our Hello Dolly. It's our Phantom. And the ticket prices reflect that, obviously, but the production level is at the very highest, and it's a big deal for us. And fortunately, as happens more frequently than you might think, the artists fell for this place. It's an absolutely beautiful place to perform, and the receptions they got from our audiences. So it was easy to get them back a second year. The holiday show is actually a brainchild of a conversation that we had right here in this building. Mr. Toffanelli, their producer, and I sat down during a photo shoot and a video shoot, and we started to talk about some ideas for what might be next, and hatch the idea of a holiday show. And sure enough, the Four Phantoms at Christmas time is going to be a big part of our season. Next question, a good one, is how do you select shows for this season? It was by and large the same in some ways. I typically attend 2 or 3 trade shows in the course of a year, where there are hundreds, if not thousands, of acts available, and kind of booths are set up. Think of any trade show you go to. They're booths and they're agents and they're selling a product, who in this case are acts and artists. And that's usually where the contacts are made. And over the years, I've been doing it for now, 25 years. And so there are some good agent relationships that have happened over the years, some great conversations, and some friendships. And as we went into this year, at the start of it, those conferences still happened. So we started to plan. Then the bottom dropped out right about the time I'm usually making decisions from that. And so at that point, we were, some of the shows for this coming season were easy to select because they're last year's shows, which have been relocated into this year. There are a couple of those, the Johnny Cash tribute and Farewell Angelina, the great country quartet. And on top of that, it's a question of who could I get for multiple shows, or in some cases, Mallory Lewis and Lamb Chop, there's obviously one human and one puppet traveling. It's a easy show in terms of social distancing backstage, which is another place where we have to have some concerns. So there are things other than, gee, will the audience like it, and will it be diverse and varied, which is usually where I go when making the final calls on these. Fortunately, it also is, entertaining and varied, and you'll see, again, there's on the YouTube channel, for those of you who are watching on Facebook, there is a YouTube version of this, The Grand at Home. And on that channel, all of the things we do like this are archived and can be, watched at a later date. And certainly the announcement I did of the season, which has snippets of all the shows, will be there as well. The real challenge for me now is going into next year. That's where the relationships that have been built in the past are going to be so important, because none of those conferences this fall and in January are going to happen this year. They're going to happen perhaps in some virtual aspect, just like everything else. But a lot of what makes it easy to shop and easy to a lot of what happens here at the Grand is part of face-to-face, negotiation and conversation. And we're just going to have to find a different way to do that. The good news is that the agents themselves, all of them, and the artists have found their way about and on how to communicate. But without those in place, it's going to be a whole bunch of Zoom conversations and group things and showcases via the internet and that sort of thing. The community also plays a part. There are always artists that have been nudged my way from folks in the community. If you ever have someone you want to see, you should always feel free to shoot me an email or online. You just got to be prepared for me to explain to you why the math doesn't allow for it to work, because heaven knows there are acts I've wanted to do for a lot of time, but the cost of the act does not equate to the number of seats or the ticket price we have to make it happen. So there's a big math problem there. Going into this year, the math problem is very real for the current year and changed a lot of things that have happened. But also, if it were to continue into for the 24, 47, 48 months, then those what an act will look like in terms of can we make it happen in a socially distanced, smaller capacity. If I'm going to be operating a 200-seat season for the next few years, that's going to affect some of the things we're going to do. Again, the way around that is the great support we get from sponsors and from donors, and we just it's a little bit of beating the same the same tune, but it is a big part of what's going on for us right now, and a big reason why we're still here making things happen for you. So with all that said, I seem to have exhausted your questions. I do want to thank you for those of you who did send them in advance. I do have one more piece of news, though, that I thought was kind of fun. And since this is Ghost Light Gossip, this is the place maybe to discuss. If you did not see the Oshkosh Common Council meeting on Tuesday, or if you didn't, it was a very long meeting. If you didn't stay till the end, because we were the last item on the agenda, I was very pleased. I am very pleased to tell you that the council did renew the Grand Oshkosh lease to operate this facility on behalf of the citizens of Oshkosh. We are now we'll be starting a 10-year lease moving forward, and I do want to thank the members of our board, the members of the city staff, and ultimately the city council, who voted 7-0 in favor of renewing that lease. A 10-year lease opens up some new possibilities for us and some exciting things that you'll see beginning as early as next month. And that's with an extended lease, we have the opportunity to not only look for yearly sponsorships, but for multi-year sponsorships and licensing, naming agreements, things will allow us to raise more money for operation of the Grand, but also in the terms negotiated by both sides into the lease. If someone does make a donation to the Grand to name X after them for 5 years or whatever, 25% of that goes into a designated fund to be used for capital improvements to the Grand. Someday we're going to need more new seats downstairs to match those great suite seats upstairs. There's a wish list that goes on forever of what we're going to want to do here at Grand. And so the extension of the lease and the terms of the lease and the cooperation between city and Grand it was and will be really essential. We're really happy to have that and to continue. It's been 1989 was the first year that the then called the Oshkosh Opera House Foundation leased the Grand. So that it has been a very long-standing partnership, and one of the first public-private partnerships here in the city. So I am so pleased to be able to continue that. And again, I want to thank everybody who helped make that happen at the city side of things and on the Grand Board side of things as well. So that is pretty much the news of the Grand right now for this week. But again, I do want to remind you that tomorrow is cocktail hour. Joining me is Mr. Mojo, the star and longtime performer, head of Mojo and the Bayou Gypsies. Mojo is, in addition to being a great artist, he is an authority on what's going on in the arts right now from the performers side of things. So we'll have a lively conversation over cocktails. We'll have some snippets of his show to show as well. It's at 7:30 tomorrow. And on Saturday, we have a full-length performance of Mojo and the Bayou Gypsies to be our featured performance of this week. Again, the Grand at Home is set to continue all the way through the summer until we're ready to open. We're looking towards September the 12th. In the meantime, you can get all of your news online at the Facebook page or at the Grand Oshkosh, thegrandoshkosh.org. Keep up with things that are going on there. I'll be on every Thursday to give you an update here on Ghost Light Gossip. And until then, stay safe, socialize with care, and I hope to see you really soon online and eventually out there in person. My name is Joe Ferlo. I'm the director of the Grand Oshkosh. Thanks for being with me this week. Look forward to seeing you in the weekend to come and next week right here on Ghost Light Gossip.